Hey everybody, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Bullseye Hiring Hangout. As always, we're joined by Kathleen or Jolene. Why don't you introduce everybody to our guest for today and tell everybody what we are going to be covering?
Great. Well, thank you for being here, and I'd like to introduce our guest, Patrick Ferry. He's not only a real estate agent locally here in Del Mar, California with Sotheby's International. He's one of our very valued clients. We've worked with him for quite a while. And he has an extensive background in sales as a sales and marketing coach with some of the top agents around the country. So we're looking forward to hearing what he has to say today and share with us. So thanks for being here, Patrick.
My pleasure. Looking forward to figuring out how I can help. Good. And did you want me to share a little bit more about my background specifically, just kind of the latest updates?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I'm coaching right now with Tom Ferry, my brother, and I'm coaching currently 32 real estate agents across the country. Anywhere from brand new to, guys who are doing, 75 to 100 sales a year. Some with bigger teams, some with just themselves. And I find, with this conversation, I find that I'm helping a lot of real estate agents bridge that gap between, a single powerful agent to now taking on an assistant, taking on a buyer's agent, and kind of getting themselves established. So, and I'm also doing that now with my own team, and thanks to Jolene and Kathleen, they're helping us, my wife and father-in-law, who are two dynamic real estate agents, and now myself as part of their team, helping us to create that new great assistant, and then we're going to continue to expand our team as we really move forward here. So it's pretty exciting. I'm doing it myself as well as talking about it every day with real estate agents. So happy to help.
Great, thanks.
All right, and before we get into actually covering the content, I just want to let everybody know that is watching this live. It is a interactive hangout. We do have a Q&A app available, so if you have any questions for Patrick, Kathleen, or Jolene during the hangout, go ahead and submit them there, and we'll make sure that they get answered on air. All right, so Kathleen, I know that you have a little outline set up of things that we wanted to cover with Patrick. Why don't we get into the first topic?
So the first topic is how to effectively communicate with a team. And one of the things that we're interested in knowing more about is how that communication affects costs, how it affects reducing mistakes, and the stress of managing transactions and collaborating. So Patrick, talk to us a little bit about both your team and how you effectively communicate, and about what you see with the people that you coach in how communication affects costs, stress, and the mistakes of managing a deal.
Well, I think we all know that the communication is one of the critical factors in the success of a team, really the success of any relationship. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Any relationship that we're dealing with. And what I have noticed over the years is just, a very successful real estate agent is someone who really takes control and responsibility for a lot of what's happening in the customer's experience. And what I find is that's a really big challenge to take that. I have a really strong sense of control. I know exactly what it takes to get things done. I know how I want it done, and I know what really serves the clients well, is to take that personal knowledge and then to be able to share that with someone else on the team and to support them in adopting those standards and adopting those principles. I find that there's usually a big breakdown in the middle there, and it's usually just, high-powered real estate agents just basically kind of just say, do this, do that, get it done, and then when they come back and it's not done to satisfaction, obviously, then they're like, that person's an idiot, and then therefore I'm just going to do it myself, and we get a lot of that vicious cycle going. I've got a very, very powerful agent right now. She is so dynamic, unbelievable, and very efficient and effective. And one of the things we're talking about is just having a little ritual where you meet with your staff in the morning and not just review the checklist like, hey Kathleen, here's all the things I need you to get done. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. right? See you later, and then come back and then micromanage them. That's not an effective morning, meeting. It's more of
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, let's review some of the files, let's review some of the initiatives that we have, and then what can we do today? What are some of the emergencies, and then what are some of the projects that we may be working on, and can we find some time to grow some of those additional projects? Why don't I show you my schedule? Let's review your schedule. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be like an effective way to kind of set the tone for the day, right?
Right.
Versus kind of, I think, how we all do it, which is just, we come in and we've just got a checklist of all the emergencies that need to get done, and just kind of what comes out of our mouth and maybe even the way that we say it is typically not nurturing, supportive, with the big picture in mind, and growing the team. It's just like,
Mm-hmm.
so I find a lot of the times, we see a lot of turnover, and we see a lot of, maybe just kind of ineffective relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have had some clients recently, because we both do hiring, but then both Jolene and I work with clients like yourself after someone is hired to be able to help them apply different kinds of techniques and management skills to the team for retention. And one of the clients that I've worked with recently was really great at asking questions in addition to saying, I need this, I need that. She was really adept at being able to say to her team or to her assistant, tell me what your priorities are today. Or in a particular file with a particular situation, the agent would ask, tell me how you are going to approach this, and be able to understand what was the assistant's strategy, what was their skill level, what were the steps they were planning to take. And then the question that I've been talking to my clients about in the last couple of weeks is ask the question, what do you need from me as the agent? What do you need from me? Because there is a complaint amongst many agents that their assistants don't think on their own, take ownership, or take something forward from once they tell them something to do. And what you're describing of do this, do this, do this, do this, I read in an article recently, is making an assistant into an order taker. So they write down what you want them to do, but then we're not teaching them to think on their own, to come up with their own strategy, to take something to the next level. And one of the things that I also see from working with assistants is they suffer with a problem longer than they really need to, because they don't want to go to their boss, to go to the lead agent with a problem that they don't want to look stupid, they don't want to let them down. But if the agent would say, what do you need from me? And the assistant said, well, I have this phone call I have to make to the seller or to this title company, and I don't really know how to approach it. It would take 30 seconds maybe to role play something, come up with a strategy, and then let the assistant take it from there, so that they would be able to take something further with just that little bit of question answer, so that someone knew the next step that they could take. Jolene, what has been your experience with that?
Well, in the Mastermind Forum conversation, we talked about delegation and the communication being a two-way street. It's not a dialogue or not a monologue. It's a dialogue. And the assistants pretty much they said, yeah, that's what that is. It tends to be the monologue, the one-way communication versus the dual, like question and answer, or the what do you need from me, and that coming back, rather than they called it the drop and run. It's like the old game that we used to play as kids, the ring and run. Well, sometimes they feel like it's the drop and run. They look at it, they're processing the information, and then they go, but I have a question. So, if we can ask them, like you said, ask them, what do you need from me? That will just really help in the communication, in the dialogue. So I think that's what you were speaking to, Patrick, is the dialogue versus drop and run.
Yeah, I think that, and I think one of the main things I've been coaching a lot of people on is just really what's the ideal week look like?
Yeah.
And I've been just challenging everybody to write out an ideal week. We've got families, we've got our business, we've got our team, we've got our assistant, and really when we don't have let's just say our team members in our calendar with some specific kind of basic outline objectives, and we don't maintain a basic routine with them, the relationship's going to fall apart. So that's it does sometimes come down to some of those routines, whether or not it's a skill or whether or not it's in the calendar. We meet together, we review all escrows. We meet together, we review all new potential listings. We meet together, to review any listings and or seller communications and or new open houses and or marketing initiatives. Those all run in a timeline, and the quicker we can get into a timeline format based upon how we ideally see it, the better this whole thing goes. And that will improve the communication, by the way, because it's like we actually have structured communication set up with you and your team member around a specific topic on how we do this and how we can develop a system and efficiencies and the tools and techniques to be able to support us. So some structure is really helpful.
Yeah, and you've recommended, doing the morning meeting to review what they've done and go over any emergencies, talk about what they need to complete today, and moving forward. Do you recommend any other scheduled meetings to work on personal development outside of just their role in the business?
Yeah, thank you. The personal development side, obviously, being, some of you may know my father, Mike Ferry, my brother, Matthew Ferry, my brother, Tom Ferry. I'm in the personal development world, and, I've met some of the most successful real estate agents in the history of the business, over the course of my 15 years, and it's a pretty common trend. Those that I found were the best students of the business, the best students of, human beings, human nature, sales, business, marketing. The best students were always the ones that seemed to succeed at the highest level, and also happened to be the ones with the biggest smiles on their faces, and happened to also be on vacation all the time. Right? So, being a great student of the business and of life is just, we can't underestimate that. For example, just a couple simple things like, an Audible account. Every one of my clients, you have to have an Audible account because it's $15 a month and you get one audiobook a month. That guarantees me that you're reading one book a month. Every one of my clients has to be subscribed to Success Magazine, period, end of story. We're going to listen to that CD interview. You're going to read some great little articles. And it's just the assurance that two things are occurring every single month and there's some growth and development. And, I think we can all relate to the fact that, when we run into challenges and, we're really experiencing pain and suffering, it's amazing what happens when we're introduced to a new solution to a challenge. And that feeling of, there's some hope here. There's a, because I'm just stuck in the pain and the suffering of whatever that challenge may be, and when you're all of a sudden introduced to a new solution, it's like there's a little bit of energy burst, and it's amazing what happens. So if you're not exposing yourself to new ideas and creative ways to handle solutions, then you're probably stuck in a lot of pain, suffering, and stress that's really unnecessary. Okay? So personal development plan, do it and do a lot.
Well, and I think your point, Patrick, really is not just for the lead agent. It's to, provide that information to the assistant and the staff, because it really brings more to the party if they're in a program as well. Because those two things that you mentioned, Success Magazine, I think it's what, $30 for the whole year?
Yeah,
for the year, 12 CDs, an Audible account. Think about what that could be like for your assistant to be listening to the particular books that you're listening to and hearing the same thing. And it's energizing. So it's not just for the lead agent, but for the assistants and the staff. And so it starts that communication, and it just raises everybody else up. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually had to force one of my, top agents to have that personal development conversation with one of her staff members. Take your staff member to lunch, ask her questions about her goals, her life challenges, and kind of create a little personal development plan with her on some of the things that she's doing in her life. And I found that to be extremely valuable for me over the years, whether or not I was running a sales team of 35 for my dad's company, or as just maintaining coaching clients. You know, if I'm going to maintain coaching clients, if they're growing and developing and, you know, and increasing their quality of life through our relationship, through some of the great things that we're sharing, they're going to be loyal to me, and that growth and development is more important than, let's say, the money. And so I feel like if you guys really step up your game in that and you influence your staff, you're going to have a lot more loyal clients, and you're going to have a healthier relationship. It's very effective.
So we're on the topic of, you know, studying and personal growth. Let's move on to the next subject that we had planned out, and that was, why is studying human behavior, how that can help you become a better leader. So talk about what you do to study human behavior and really how that affects your leadership quality.
Yeah, that's, I mean, wow, what is such amazing topic. You know, I think probably some of the most transformational stuff that's ever occurred for me was studying, you know, how humans, how humans work. And, you know, whether or not that was, let's say, like a Tony Robbins event or like a landmark education or, you know, any one of the books on personality types. You know, when I get to really look at like how people operate and you get to see the behavior, the actual kind of way that we, you know, take in information and express ourselves and how we deal with challenges, it's unbelievable what happens. And, you know, the most important thing for us, I think, as leaders is the ability to have compassion and to have understanding. So, you know, I find a lot more that I have compassion for a lot of, let's say, you know, a staff member or a coaching client or an assistant, because I can kind of see the behavior pattern that they're operating with, and I can see how it's kind of running their life. So it's not like, you know, X result happened. It's like, oh God, they're such an idiot. It's not that. I can actually now see the background behavior pattern because of all my, you know, study and research on myself first, and then of course on understanding others. So then it's more about addressing the behavior pattern, not that this is like some personal attack on me, right? It's really, or she's an idiot, or he's, you know, he's this or he's that. It's really, oh, I get it. Behind all of this is these key items. So if I can go in there and address those, transform them there, man, they'll be, you know, they'll be loyal to me forever. So we have to be constantly studying, you know, human behavior. Any book that comes out on it, on the topic, I am all over it. And it's just, you know, transformational.
I'm curious, how do you work with agents that look at the process of doing exactly what you were just describing, of having some compassion for where someone is, looking at what's causing that, how can I help, you know, move that forward, that consider that to be a tolerance of low quality results or a tolerance of mistakes, where they're not getting that perfection, which is always a hard word that I hate to use, but so many, I'll say so many bosses, and in our population, so many agents are looking for no mistakes, perfect, just the way I would do it. And there's a hard line in their mindset about helping someone that works for them, that they're paying money to, to walk through the process of progress. So how do you help agents get to that point? Studying human behavior, I understand, is one of it, but what are some of the ways that you work with agents to help them integrate that into their leadership?
Gosh, that's a really great question, and it's probably a really good topic. You know, nothing's really like striking me like a simple solution to the problem, and you know, because I see it all the time. It's just, you know, I think we have an expectation that someone operates at this level, but we actually never had a communication, we never had a training, we never had a series of steps to say, this is how the expectation is, and you need to meet it. We just kind of have, here's how I expect it to be, and if you're unable to match that expectation, something's obviously wrong with you, and oh, maybe I should talk to Jolene and Kathleen to figure out if I should hire someone new, Right? So,
Right.
I think we got to check our expectations and then figure out, did we really effectively give them a game plan on
Mhm.
meeting that expectation? Do they have the tools to meet those expectations? Am I being a good enough leader to help them meet those expectations? Great book, by the way, on this topic. It's now popping into my head. Is the book Extreme Leadership? It's Extreme Leadership. It's done by the Navy SEAL guys, and extreme ownership. That's what it is, extreme ownership. And on this topic, Kathleen, they basically said, in the military, it's like, it's not just I have some responsibility for the team and how they operate. It's I have 100% responsibility. So, these guys are like, extreme ownership is 100% responsibility. If my team member is making mistakes, whose fault is it? It's mine.
Mm.
I'm responsible for this. And it's that mindset shift. That was a very powerful book. I recommend everyone get it. I would get it, by the way, in the book. I listened to the audio and it was great,
Mhm.
but there's such good stories in there. I probably would rather read it physically. But if you're like me, I'm listening to audiobooks at 1.5 times the speed on my audio, so it's kind of like I can just get 5 hours done
Right.
in 2.5. Let's get it done. Anyways. So extreme ownership, I think is really where we should probably land on this conversation is you take 100% responsibility for how they're performing and then figure out how you can help them achieve a higher level of success. And of course, Kathleen and Jolene, I'd like to hear your response to, but I don't have time for all of that training.
Of course.
Right? How do we deal with that, you two?
Well, as I said earlier, it's I equate it to if you have raised your hand and said I want to be a lead agent and a top producer, there are some accountabilities that come with it. When I signed up and said yes, we're going to open up a second office and a third office and a fourth office, I signed up, I didn't realize it, so obviously I went through the process. I had to become a different kind of a leader from having one office to having four offices. So, and the only way I got through that was to be better with myself. So it's like if you're going to go work out, you have to put the time in to have a better body, a better efficient body, or it's not going to work. For me to go to four offices, I had to learn how to be a different leader. Same with our kids. Different different parent for a 2-year-old than you are with a college kid. So different distinctions that you have to use to be that leader. And if you don't put in the time, which I think that personal growth and development is really almost like risk management in a way. It's one of the pillars that you put underneath a growing business. Because if you don't do it and you don't grow with your people and grow with that, it's going to break. The corner is going to fall out and it's going to tumble. And nobody wants to have that frustration of turnover, no profit, all of that stuff. So, we can either be, you know, not growing and get run over, or not working out, working our brains out and get fat up here. I don't know. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, you inspired one thing. I'll just add one thing to that. What I've noticed too, it's kind of reminding me of a lot of the coaching conversations that I'm having is I don't think we have in our schedule enough time of working on the business.
Right.
We're just working in the business nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't get into the schedule. And so, kind of just to this point, it's like we just go, 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 go.
Right.
So how do I find the time to create that new, I got an amazing new marketing initiative for every new listing. Well, someone's got to take the time to write that whole thing out and then teach it to someone, which transforms my business forever. Or I can just kind of, just keep kind of doing it on my own because I'm the one that came up with it. It was my idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just waste a crap load of my time and energy. And then I work for 12 hours in a day versus actually just taking an hour, writing it all out, doing a quick screenshot video, and then just sharing that with my assistant on how to do all of these things. And then now I'm working, 8 hours a day, and we're providing a higher level of service to all of our clients, but it's because I took the time to work on the business.
Wouldn't that be called leverage?
Yeah.
Leveraging
Wow.
your time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Another great book. I don't know if you guys read it, but I think it was called Virtual Freedom, and they talked about how you really figure out what your your top 3 most important things that you need to be doing, and all the other things that you need to be delegating or something like that. It was pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah. What else?
And Patrick has opened up the door, Scott, to our next, our third topic, right? Which is the benefits of teamwork, and how when you work with a team and you are effective at communicating and you've studied human behavior, that then there are payoffs. And so what are the payoffs for an agent that might be working 16 hours a day and is exhausted and frustrated that they're trying to get high quality results, and so they keep taking the jobs back, the tasks back, and doing it themselves. But once you do put these pieces in place, what have you seen as the benefits to agents that end up applying this in their business?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question, and I think you guys are right on point with what the service you guys are providing, because my brother Tom Ferry just did a video the other day on his little YouTube channel. He's talking about that building teams is the future of real estate. And it's not this trend that's occurring, and it's not going away. It's probably going to dominate real estate over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, and it's really going to be one of the models that's going to exist. So we are looking for who are those next leaders that are going to transform from I'm a great salesperson to here's the standards in which I operate, and let me help others operate at a high level and provide a great valued service so that I can do it at scale. So I think we are looking right now for more great leaders. So if you are that person, the benefits are extraordinary, because every single agent that I meet that gets up to that level of 20 to 30 sales, and they're just pulling their hair out and they're grinding away, making a ton of money, probably losing their spouse at the same time, and no longer having a relationship with their kids, but are now making a bunch of money, that agent that I work with and love every single day, I have to literally shake them and say, come on, let's hire that first assistant. You have more buyer leads than you know what to do with. Why don't we just start the process of referring some of those off? Why don't we, you have more opportunities than you can ever imagine. You've achieved that level of success. Now let's take some time to start figuring out how to grow this business in a big way. And I think that takes all of the pressure off. And what pisses me off the most is all of my great friends who are some of the biggest producing agents doing 200 transactions a year, and they're on more vacation than me.
No kidding. Yeah, exactly.
This is just ridiculous. And they're at this event, they're at that event, they're flying here, flying there, and oh, by the way, their team is doing twice as much business, 3 times as much business as me, right? And so if what are the benefits? They're extraordinary. And I think I had a great conversation with a very powerful real estate agent who's a coaching client yesterday, or just this week, and I said, listen, it's time for you to bridge the gap to become to create a team. And I said, I think everything that you've done could be feeding 10 families right now. Yeah. And so there was also something in that of just really, taking on a group of people and really supporting them grow their lives at the same time. So if it's not the monetary, if it's not the save a bunch of time, reduce a bunch of the stress, serve more people in your public or in your community at a higher level, maybe it's just, supporting some of the families that are around you and making sure they have an extraordinary life because of all the great things that you've learned and all the things that you've been able to accomplish. I don't know. We'll have to figure out for you what it is.
Nice. Great. Scott?
Definitely.
And I have a question for you to take a step back and talk about human behavior for just a second. You said one is know your own personality style and what makes you tick so that you can then learn what makes your team tick and how to deal with them. Are there any assessments that you recommend that could help somebody figure out what their personality traits are, what their team that they could dive into it a little bit quicker than actually going and studying all of this as much as you have?
I don't think there's a fast, a quick approach to it, but we love the DISC, assessment test. I'm a big fan of the. I got the book here. What is it? The Social Styles Handbook from Larry Wilson, right?
Love it.
This is the kind of the original, analytical driver, amiable, expressive. I've used that. But I think really the more you dive into either whether or not it's the DISC or the Larry Wilson or any one of those persons, just dive in and start figuring it out and have the conversation with every single person in your life about it, and you will grow beyond recognition and you will be paid huge dividends in that area when you start to understand other people's personality styles, what their strengths are, maybe what their weaknesses are. Therefore, you know what you can count on them for, and then also how to support them in the areas where they're struggling. The same thing goes for you.
Mm-hmm. That's such a great question, Scott, too. And Patrick, thank you for sharing that, because there is the original version of the amiable, analytical, that is out there, and then the DISC profile. But what I like to tell people, too, is it's only one slice of a human being, because we have a tendency to put it like, oh, well, you're amiable. Okay, I'm amiable. Okay, I'm not a doormat. Or so it's like we put people in a box, and it's really, we're so multi-dimensional human beings. You've got that, the DISC, the analytical, the Myers-Briggs, the Colby, all of those. So it's understanding ourselves and what's making us tick. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's close to my heart, and understanding what has people tick. Because from a coaching and from a consulting point of view, sometimes it's not about the skill, the actual hard skill. It's the soft skill of understanding what's happening and what's driving the person behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's the natural tendencies. It's, oh, that person doesn't have it in their tank to go into sales. They're better behind the curtain, because that's what gives them energy versus being on stage and sales, that type of thing. So thank you for sharing that, because it is it's dive in and start asking questions. It's fascinating.
Well, and I also want to bring up that on a team, it is highly beneficial to have a variety of personality styles that have different roles on the team. They do different tasks, but it also brings in conflict, because you're not like me, you don't do it the way I do, you don't think the way I think, and so it also then does create us to force us to build some bridges of understanding, where you have to ask and be able to, for Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to listen to understand before listening to be understood. That really comes into play here, where when you have a transaction coordinator that's doing contract management, you really want that person to be have a high attention to detail, which is often an analytical. But if you then ask them to call clients and pre-qualify them for a listing appointment, you're going to give them an ulcer, because those two strengths often don't go together. They might in a person, and for us in the hiring business, when you put those two things together, it's like this candidate is literally a needle in a haystack, because they don't usually go together. But if you get the expressive who loves to talk to everyone and they've never met a stranger, and then you ask them to be in high detail work and work alone on a computer, you're sort of like not watering the plants. It's really getting the right person in the right job and making sure that you do have a balance. And then the need to understand human behavior really comes on strong, because now you've got this potpourri of personalities on your team, and that does take some getting used to. It's worth it, but it takes some getting used to.
So we've gone just a little bit over time, but
yeah, because I do got to jump, so I got to.
So let's go ahead and cap this off. I didn't stop us to begin with, because the information we were sharing was so good. One last question for you, Patrick, and then we'll let you get out of here. Thing that you would tell an agent that is interested in having more success, but actually working less and building a team and leveraging some of their work, what's the one thing that they could do today that would put them on that track?
I think I'll just kind of leave it more in the kind of the quote version, which is, one of my favorite quotes is from my brother Matthew Ferry, who says, the success, his definition of success is a series of well-managed breakdowns. And so in this business with hiring assistants and team members, there's going to be breakdowns. There's going to be failures. There's going to be epic disasters that occur. And so the disaster is the opportunity for a big breakthrough. So what he also would say is the bigger the breakdown, the bigger the breakthrough. So, as you're going through this process, it's going to take you maybe 5 assistants to figure out really your personality style, their personality style, what the job task list is, how this all thing comes together, and you have a lot of failures along that way. Just hurry it up, right? Speed it up. Fail forward faster, right? Get it going, right? And then when you have the breakdown, celebrate it. Oh, this was fantastic. I blew that thing up. This is going to be great.
All right,
great.
so
thank you guys. I really gotta jump. So appreciate all
Patrick.
you guys.
If
Kathleen and Jolene, you guys are awesome. Go ahead.
Patrick, if anybody has any questions for you or would like to get a hold of you from the Hangout, what's the best way that they can contact you?
Gosh, probably, I don't know. You can, call me, email me, Facebook me, anything that you want to do with me. Again, I'm, Patrick Todd Ferry on Facebook, or my email is patrick@kaiandcarlyhomes.com, and you guys can reach out to me, Jolene, in any way that I can, any way you guys can share. Okay. Thanks so much. Thank you guys. Have a great one.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Bye.
Yep, you too. And Kathleen, Jolene, how can people reach you if they have any questions for you?
Our toll-free number is 1-844-447-4641. And the generic email to reach any of us can be info@bullseyehiring.com.
All right, great. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. That was great. We'll do this again next month, so be on the lookout for more information about what we will be covering next month on our Bullseye Hiring Hangout, and we look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.